let me ask you this. Do you have a fascination with serial killers or true crime like me? Right? I love all this kind of stuff. I get intrigued by the psychology around it. Well, Scottish detective David Swindle is bringing The Makings of a Murderer to the Darlington Hippodrome next month. And I caught up with him a little earlier to find out more. Have a listen to this. Afternoon, David.
How are you doing? Pleased to meet you, Scott. Pleased to chat to you.
Right back at you. Thanks for taking the time. Now, first of all, what can people expect from this show? Because this sounds truly fascinating.
Well, I'm not going to give everything away, Scott, what is on the show, because it would take 2 hours to do that. But it is going to be a fascinating, chilling and thrilling as well input from me speaking about the makings of a murderer. And that is something that, as a former detective, a very experienced detective, someone with 35 years in the police, all in the CID, and since I've left the police, I'm still doing investigations and supporting families. So they're going to be hearing me, the detective, actually speaking about high-profile killer cases, high-profile serial murderers, and also some people that maybe weren't serial killers that are progressing towards it. So I'm excited to be speaking on it, and I'm sure they will enjoy it.
Why then, David, do you think that we're so intrigued, particularly by true crime?
Now, this is something, Scott, that I have been fascinated myself as to why did people have this interest in true crime, and it has grown quite a lot over the years. I have been involved in quite a lot since I have left the police, speaking in TV programmes, speaking on crime shows, and now The Makings of a Murderer. Rightly so, that people want to know why someone killed another human being. But we also have to remember that for every one of these killers and serial killers, there's more than one victim.
Yeah.
And there's victims and families. And we have to be careful we don't over-glamorise it. But there is a big fascination there regarding true crime and killers. And I always say, Scott, we should never forget the horrors that these killers put their victims through and what their families are suffering from.
Do you think, David, that some people are just hardwired differently?
Well, I'll save that one for The Makings of a Murder at the Hippodrome in Darlington. That is a question that a lot of people come up with. A lot of things we've spoken about, the nature, nurture, early intervention. You know, I am a former senior investigating officer. I've seen many, many tragic cases, homicides, victims, trying to tell families that their loved one has been killed by an individual. Myself, I will never understand why someone takes the life of another human being.
And David, again, going back to, your 30 plus years as a senior detective, did you ever become hardened to a murder scene? Or, were you always shocked by it? Or was there something in particular about a certain crime that, again, without trying to glamorize it, outdid the last crime that made you think, I can't believe it?
For me, every single murder investigation I have been involved in is pressures on me, because I'm trying to understand why someone has done that, and the family, and what they have done to the family, what they've done to the victim. You can never become, as you say, the word hardened. It's something that, I'm a human being, and it's very difficult for me as a human being to understand why another human being has killed.
Does it become a passion for you to get justice for that family, for that circle of friends and people who knew the victim?
As a senior detective involved in high-profile investigations, I looked upon it as a search for the truth. And that is, in my website is out there, davidswindle.com. It has a section about the makings of a murder. It has a section about the work I do. And one of the straplines that I developed in the police when I was working in some big cases was the search for the truth. Leave no stone unturned. And having left the police, and I don't like to use that word retired, I say I left the police, I'm working, I'm helping families because I have skills. And for me, it's being able to try and help families and victims and catch the bad person, catch the killer. And The Makings of a Murder is going to be looking at some very old cases, going through them, looking at what would have happened if it happened today. And I'm going to be quite open, quite objective. and people will find it sad but fascinating. And I know the Darlington Hippodrome is a big venue, and I'm looking forward to seeing people there and speaking to them all and discussing the makings of Murderer.
It's been a pleasure chatting to you, David. It really has. And this sounds truly fascinating. You can see Scottish detective David Swindle bringing the makings of a murderer to the Darlington Hippodrome Saturday, February the 11th. David, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm sure that it'll be absolutely packed out and people will be hanging on your every word as well. And so thanks very much indeed for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Nice to chat.